Parallel Times is an information service to help you shift your life out of the matrix and into parallel society. Subscribe at paralleltimes.info for blog posts, podcasts, and interviews. Want to offer an online class that helps build parallel society? Visit paralleltimesuniversity.info to see sample courses now launching, or contact Melanie Rubin at together@paralleltimes.info.
Logos is reimagining Web3 using 3 primary protocols to develop a privacy-focused, neutral, decentralized tech stack. Nomos is private modular blockchains for cyberstates. Codex is a durable, decentralized data storage protocol that preserves knowledge without the risk of censorship. And Waku is a censorship-resistant protocol for private peer-to-peer communication.
Since 2012, the Conscious Resistance Network has been an independent media organization focused on empowering individuals through education, philosophy, health, and community organizing. We work to create a world where corporate and state power do not rule over the lives of free human beings. Our motto is leading by example and helping others in their pursuit of freedom. Visit theconsciousresistance.com to find our articles, documentaries, interviews, podcasts, books, and more. Remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free.
I'm going all the way up. I'm going all the way up. I'm letting go in my
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Day 5 of the Greater Reset. Day 5 of the Greater Reset 5, which is all about manifestation. How is everybody this morning? Yeah. My name is John Bush, co-founder of the Greater Reset, along with Derek and our good friend Hakeem. And I just wanted to shout out Derek and Hakeem and the team again. Shout out We Are Not Zombies for doing such incredible work with the production. There's a lot that goes into this, so you guys get to enjoy it from the audience. There's a lot that goes into coming down to Mexico, too, especially if you're traveling from afar. We got folks from Europe, people from all over the world. So I want to thank you guys for being here. Shout out to the online stream. We're always appreciative of our folks that are tuning in from everywhere. So If I can get everybody's attention, I want to introduce what we're going to be doing today, what today is all about. Today is all about building free and conscious communities. So a few days ago in this same room, we held a intentional community networking event. And I was really excited to see that it was almost all of the attendees that were here. So there's a whole lot of folks that are very much interested in this idea of living together cooperatively. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, it seems like being together in community, for example, how special is it to come with all these like-minded folks and enjoy and mix it up and network and experience one another and learn from one another? Every time I'm at one of these conferences or a festival, I always ask myself, why can't life be like this all the time, right? Well, I got news for you, folks. It can. You just got to build it and craft that type of life for yourself. And that's a big piece of what today is all about. How do we build conscious and free communities? And it's not just necessarily living together cooperatively in the same piece of land. It's also virtual communities, online communities. Really, at the end of the day, one of the biggest tenets of the Freedom Cell Network, right, it's the Freedom Cell Network that hosts and puts on these events, and the ideas that are presented at the Greater Reset are 100% in alignment with the work that we're doing in the Freedom Cell Network. It's all about strength in numbers. And life's hard when you're going at it alone. Because let's face it, there's a lot of challenges that we're facing, not just all this crazy New World Order stuff and technocracy, but challenges that households face in general. Whether it's making ends meet, the kids are struggling, people are struggling with substance abuse, whatever it may be, the antidote to all of that, and what makes life so much easier to deal with is community and family and friends. And we're building a chosen family here at the Greater Reset. I just want to thank everybody for being a part of it. I want to share like a quick vision with these communities when you're actually living together in intentional communities. One of the things that we want to do with the Freedom Cell Network is bring together a bunch of different communities, people that are living on their own, people that are living in an intentional community, and kind of create our own free society, essentially, where we trade amongst ourselves, where we resolve conflict together, we pool resources so we could do bigger and more grand things. I think that the folks meeting at the World Economic Forum, they have big visions and big ambitions, and there's no reason why we shouldn't as well. And more importantly, we need to step out of this reactionary paradigm where we're always pushing back and resisting what they're doing, and we need to carve out our own vision and really start putting it into practice. That's what the Greater Reset's all about. That's what today is all about. And I want to thank you again for joining us. Here's old Mr. Derek Bros. How you doing, Derek?
Great. Make some noise for John Bush, everybody. John's going to be giving a really awesome presentation later today, as well as his wife, Rebecca Bush, as well. One more reminder before we get started on our first speaker. She is speaking in Spanish as well, so if you do not speak Spanish very well, you might want to go back and get a headset so you can understand her presentation, and I hope you will. So, yeah, anything else you want to say before we jump in?
Give it up for peace and freedom.
All right, everybody, let's go ahead and jump in. Today, as John said, is building free and conscious communities, and we're going to just hear from so many powerful people in that, under that theme of how we organize in our communities, how we buy land, how we protect ourselves spiritually, mentally, physically. Today kind of encapsulate a lot of the other themes. You know, we talked about technology, we talked about building parallel systems, mental, physical, spiritual health. We also talked about technology yesterday. And when we build our free and conscious communities, for one, today we'll ask that question. What does it even mean to be conscious? What does it mean to be free? We'll explore that today. But when we're building our communities, we want to incorporate the types of technology we saw yesterday. We want to incorporate the health modalities we heard about on day one. We want to incorporate the parallel systems that people are building. And so today is kind of bringing all that together and wrapping it up in a nice bow as we talk about building communities into the future. And our first speaker is someone that is another presenter that I'm really excited to have on board because, well, she is Mexican, she's local to and native to this country, and as you guys can hopefully see, we are trying to build an integrated movement out here. We don't want it to just be all you lovely expats coming from other places in the world, which we love and appreciate, but we want this place to be filled up with as many Mexicans as there are expats, right? How about next year, this room is 200 Mexicans and 200 expats plus. You guys think that would be amazing to see that? I would love that.
And I want to shout out, last night we had a documentary screening here that was in Espanol, and we had locals and Spanish speakers coming up here to show. And anybody here at the documentary screening last night? Did you guys watch the movie last night? We also streamed it online. Yeah, I know a few of you were here. And I think that was just another part of that effort. So having Susana here today and the other local Mexicans to speak and share their knowledge is very important to us. So please give your full attention to Susana Ritchie as she presents her presentation. Come on.
Thank you. Gracias. Bienvenidos todos. Muchas gracias a Daryl y a Miriam por esta invitación. Estoy muy emocionada, muy contenta y agradecida por estar este día, el último día de este gran evento. Yo les voy a hablar de un tema muy importante, pero primeramente pues me voy a presentar. Soy Susana Ritchie. Comunicóloga, administrador, activista, cantante y músico, y pues una hermana de todos ustedes que está en la defensa de la humanidad. Estoy muy emocional en sí, hasta tengo notas aquí que me puse como para recordarme todo lo que he vivido y lo que muchos de aquí hemos vivido, que hemos sido atacados y que quieren controlarnos, quieren limitarnos. Yo, como mucha gente, ha vivido bullying, pero hoy es normal ser así. Hay mucha gente que quiere que las personas no tengan emociones, sentimientos. Somos humanos y yo estoy muy emocional, pero bueno, entre todo eso emoción, soy demasiado guerrera. Me he enfrentado con mucha gente y muchos compañeros también que hemos estado en esta lucha para defendernos, para defender nuestra salud, para defender nuestra libertad, nuestro linaje que es nuestros hijos, nuestra familia. Y sobre todo, pues este gen de Dios, yo le llamo así, el gen de Dios es la naturaleza, lo biológico. De eso vamos a hablar ahorita. Bueno, les voy a dar la presentación. Bueno, ahí está mi carita. Y todos se los puse en inglés, pero para que puedan también entender ahí un poco. Yo tengo este tipo de movimientos y organizaciones y grupos de los cuales he estado haciendo junto con más compañeros y mucha gente. AdopCat se dedica a lo que es rescate y ayuda a perros maltratados, gatos y todo animal que esté violentado. Es una organización, AdopCat, que está en la defensa del bienestar animal. Soy cofundador con mi hermana gemela, soy gemela. Y el siguiente es un grupo que se llama Reunión de Tierra Plana. Es más que nada no tanto de que si la Tierra es plana, simplemente hay que cuestionar lo que la ciencia espacial o los supuestos científicos nos quieren imponer con modelos que pues no se pueden comprobar de cierta manera, porque nunca vamos a ir al espacio, estamos en un domo y demás, pero bueno, eso es otra cosa. Libres Pensadores es como esta comunidad grande que queremos que más gente se una, que estén aquí presentes y que podamos hacer comunidad sustentable, comunidad de gente consciente y libre. Eso es lo que es la comunidad de Libres Pensadores, como todos los que estamos aquí, free. Road por la Libertad, Road for Freedom, que es un grupo y un comité donde soy parte con más compañeros, más personas, que es un festival de música de rock y otros géneros, menos reggaetón y esas cuestiones muy feas, pero sí de música con calidad, para que la gente tenga libertad de expresión, sobre todo en la música que llega a todo el mundo. La música es universal. El de Conversación entre Amigos es un programa que yo creé en 2020, cuando inició esta gran farsa la pandemia. Yo desde hace muchos años ya venía preparada para descubrir que van a continuar haciendo mentiras mundiales. Esa es una. Mi abuelo, que en paz descanse, hace muchos años ya murió, pero como era Rosa Cruz y masón, todo esto, nos comentaba a mí y a mi familia que tuviéramos cuidado en las cuestiones mundiales porque iban a seguir engañando a la humanidad y iban a imponer el nuevo orden mundial, que no va a ser así. Y Mexicanos por la Verdad es un grupo de activistas por la vida, la salud y la libertad de todos, es mundial. Igual hay más grupos, pero vengo representando a Mexicanos por la Verdad, donde nos estuvimos manifestando arduamente todo el tiempo en este país, luchando para que la gente se diera cuenta y que decidiera por sí mismo qué hacer con su cuerpo, su vida, su familia, su casa y sus ideas, qué es lo primordial que tenemos que hacer. Nosotros tenemos el poder en nosotros, en nuestras manos, en nuestra mente, en nuestro cuerpo, está el poder para hacer una vida plena, libre, sin ataduras, ni esperar con las manos extendidas las cadenas de este orden mundial, nada de eso. Yo estoy en contra, yo voy a luchar hasta el último día de mi vida para que esto sea así, que tengamos libertad, como ahorita que estamos reunidos aquí. Todo esto lo hicimos durante este tiempo, nos estuvimos reuniendo, estuvimos informando a la gente, salíamos a la calle y mandábamos mensaje de libertad, de que no se dejaran manipular, de que los medios son, pues ahora sí que parte de este proyecto que quieren imponer, y todo eso lo estuvimos manifestando en muchas instituciones, aquí en la Secretaría de Salud, en COFEPRIS, en el Zócalo, también apoyamos a otros países, en las embajadas de Australia, de Canadá, en fin, en un montón de lugares nos estuvimos manifestando y obviamente así ahora sí como que a la antigüita mandando esa información con papelitos y de boca en boca. Todo eso lo estuvimos haciendo con mucha gente, poniéndonos enfrente de militares, policías, de que ellos no tienen ningún poder, ellos no son ninguna autoridad, yo no le voy a ceder mi autoridad a nadie, yo soy soberana, así como cada uno de ustedes. Espero que este mensaje sea alentador para que recuerden que son soberanos. Ustedes y yo estamos regidos por las leyes naturales, no las creadas por el humano, falsas, de papelitos y cuestiones de decretos y constituciones que lo único que hacen es dividir, controlar y manipular a las personas para que no conozcan su ser interior, espiritual y asombroso, que es nuestra mente, nuestra energía y lo que somos parte de este todo, de la creación universal, del creador, del que ustedes quieran, pero yo creo en algo que está ahí presente, me he conectado con él, por eso soy muy sentimental, porque he tenido esa conexión que me dice que mi visión en la vida, mi misión es mandar este mensaje y hacerlo hasta que pues yo pueda estar aquí en este plano. Gracias. Bueno, ahora sí vemos con todo. Yo soy demasiado energética, ahorita me tengo que controlar mucho porque la verdad tengo un coraje tan grande que a veces quieres decir tantas cosas en un solo minuto que se te revuelve la cabeza y las ideas y empiezas por un tema y sales por otro y bueno, pero aquí tengo una pequeña guía para que no me vaya yo a revolver. La salud, la vida y la libertad es lo importante. Es lo primero que tenemos que tener presente, defender lo que es nuestra salud. Nosotros sabemos qué es lo bueno, qué es lo malo, qué queremos, nos conocemos, sabemos las cosas que nos pasan, nuestro cuerpo. Nosotros tenemos que conocernos más a fondo y cuidar esa salud. La salud es individual. La salud es es para cada uno, es individual, nosotros somos únicos. Yo siendo gemela, hasta mi hermana gemela no es así como yo, tiene otra personalidad, nuestro ADN es diferente, el mínimo, pero todos somos únicos. La salud no se inyecta, lo podemos ver con estas culturas antiguas que aún existen, los aborígenes que siguen con su libertad y en su mundo. Nosotros también podemos hacerlo, a pesar de estas comunidades que nos da la Matrix y todo esto, pero podemos hacerlo. Se habla de que más adelante, y bueno, ya lo estamos viendo, va a haber dos tipos de humanos o dos tipos de humanidad, la controlada y la libre. ¿Tú en cuál quieres estar? ¿En la controlada, en la que es la cárcel? Las ciudades son la cárcel. Helen White decía, la ciudad es la cárcel, la ciudad es como el infierno. Pero en este caso, ¿quieres tú estar en una comunidad libre? Empieza por ti. Empieza por defender tu salud. Empieza por defender tu linaje, tu familia, los niños. Ellos van a ser ese futuro. Siempre es como muy trillado decir que ellos son el futuro. Pues sí, es que sí lo son. Los niños son el futuro. Hay que enseñarles a ser como yo, como ustedes, a defenderse. ¿Por qué? Para que este linaje tenga continuación. Yo cuando hablo siempre estoy pensando más allá, por decir, yo igual ahorita pudiera ya no estar, pero tengo que tener la seguridad de que cuando ya no esté yo en vida, esa información, manera de ser y de conciencia, de humano, debe continuar en las semillas que son los niños, en ellos, o los que apenas van a nacer también. Hay que inculcar esa fuerza, esa valentía, esa fortaleza, esa entereza, esa garra, ese fuego, el fuego que todos tenemos que nos hace seguir adelante, defender. Todo eso lo podemos hacer y enfocarnos, tener certeza de que este camino que estamos haciendo es para el bienestar, para el bien interior y para el bien de la conciencia y la paz mental. Todo eso tenemos que asegurarlo. Vivir sin miedo, todos tenemos miedo. Pareciera a veces que hay personas que no tienen miedo cuando están en algún peligro, o que una mamá va a defender a su hijo, o en algún ataque real, ¿no? Un animal que te va a atacar, o cualquier situación que te ponga en peligro real. Nosotros tenemos que vivir sin miedo. El miedo no te deja vivir, el miedo te detiene, te paraliza, te bloquea. Tenemos que vivir sin miedo. Yo también tengo miedo, pero poco a poco hay que quitarnos ese miedo aquí. Todo está aquí. No hay enfermedades, es otra cuestión. El miedo, elimínalo de tu vida, a menos que pues, veas a alguien que pues, tenga un arma o un cuchillo. Eso es un ataque real y verdadero, pero tienes que defenderte. Pero vivir sin miedo es lo mejor. Te abre un panorama de oportunidades para disfrutar de una vida plena y de ser un buen ser humano, una buena persona que no afecta a nadie. Eso hay que tenerlo muy claro, vivir sin miedo y con total seguridad. Lo comentaba, lo del gen de Dios, hoy se ha atacado en estos años, bueno, siempre se ha atacado, estos ya tienen miles de años, se habla de que ya hasta estamos modificados, que por eso la gente pues, parece borrego y todo esto, porque pues sí, o sea, se ha estado moldeando al ser humano para llegar al punto de que pues simplemente se va a desaparecer, pero nosotros tenemos este control, nosotros mismos hacemos todo. Si a ti te dicen, ay, es que aquí hay un letrero donde te obliguen algo, tú no tienes que hacer caso. No hay necesidad de darle esa autoridad a alguien más. Tú tienes la autoridad, tú tienes la libertad. Y nosotros aquí creo que sí lo sabemos, pero hay que seguir difundiendo a más personas esa información, ese mensaje, para que más puedan defender a la humanidad y proteger pues lo que es la vida, la salud y la libertad. Le comentaba a todos que pues sí, estamos regidos por las leyes de la naturaleza. Es algo que no es como que se borre y ya está como un fantasma, no, ahí siempre ha estado, ahí siempre seguirán. Nadie, absolutamente nadie, así como dicen, venga cualquier dios y quien sea o lo que quieran, nadie les puede obligar absolutamente a nada. Yo me he enfrentado a la gente y muchos de estar rodeada de policías o de que te bajen de algún transporte público porque tú no dejabas que te pusieran o te impusieran estos rituales satánicos y así. Nada de eso. Yo decía, pero es que yo simplemente estoy existiendo, estoy aquí, no es ningún delito ni nada, o no estoy matando a nadie por mirar, por comer, por hablar, por caminar. Nada de eso. Nadie te puede obligar absolutamente a nada, así diga lo que sea, nadie. Toda ley, decreto, regla injusta, inmoral, violenta e inhumana se desobedece, punto. No hay debate, no hay nada, se desobedece. Esto es muy importante. No sé, yo hasta quisiera que hubiera un monumento en piedra, así como muchas construcciones antiguas, y que diga esto es parte de la matriz, esto de las leyes, decretos y demás, son inventos, son farsas, son cosas que las puedes quemar, son cosas que están solamente aquí. Tú le das ese poder a estos papelitos y constituciones y demás para que tú obedezcas, pero no tienes que obedecer nada. Es como algo natural y normal el que tú desobedezcas. Aquí lo primordial de mi ponencia es desobedecer todo. Si a veces no le hago ni caso a mi mamá, ¿cómo le voy a hacer caso al vecino o a otra persona que pues no sabe de mí, no me conoce? Eso es lo que hay que hacer. Hoy en día el gobierno quiere entrar a tu casa, pateó la puerta de tu casa, se metió a tu habitación, se metió al baño y él quiere mandar en tu vida. No podemos permitirlo, para nada, absolutamente. Aquí esto es muy importante, la indiferencia y la participación. Nosotros ahorita aquí estamos participando, estamos haciendo acciones con hechos, no nada más hablarlo, hay que hacerlo. Hay una frase que mi madre siempre me dice, hablan más tus hechos que lo que me dices, no lo escucho. Lo primeramente que hay que hacer es, no nada más estar hablando, bla, 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 bla. Yo podría hablar todo el día aquí, pero si no hago, si no acciono, si no me junto, si no hago las cosas, me reúno, hago ese cambio que quiero hacer. ¿Quieres vivir en comunidad? Hazlo. ¿Estás en contra de todo lo que han impuesto? Hazlo, pero hazlo con total claridad. No te va a pasar nada. Obviamente han pasado desgracias. Hay gente que con el bozal que les pusieron, porque yo le llamo bozal, el bozal se lo pusieron, sí, es que no hay otra. El bozal se lo pusieron a una persona y hay muchas que las mataron porque no llevaban ese trapito en la cara. Es algo tan feo el que por un trapo a ti te hayan, pues ahora sí que aniquilado, eliminado, y es terrible. No podemos permitirlo, hay que hacerlo colectivo, hay que, lo voy a volver a repetir, pero sí, tenemos que hacer ya. No podemos perder el tiempo, estamos perdiendo el tiempo. Ay, que el papelito hay que llevarle allá al gobierno. Estás perdiendo el tiempo, ellos no te van a hacer caso. Les voy a decir una palabrita que se dice mucho aquí, pero te están dando a tole con el dedo. Así les están haciendo aquí en todo el mundo. Les están haciendo a tole con el dedo, que no va para ningún lado. La libertad de expresión, como ahorita, que yo estoy hablando sin que, como decía Miriam y Dari, tú habla lo que tú quieras. Bueno, tenemos que tener libertad en todos los sentidos, todo, libertad para hablar, no tienes que tener o como filtros, ¿no? Como dicen ahora, tienes que filtrar lo que dices para que los tontitos pues no se ofendan. No, yo no voy a estarme deteniendo porque si alguien se ofendió y que si no sé qué. Hay que ser totalmente transparente. A la gente hoy en día le gusta que le mientan, le gusta que sea la gente doble cara. Yo no soy doble cara. Yo veo a la gente de frente, pero si ellos no me quieren ver, pues no está en mí. Todos tenemos que tener entereza para hablar, para ver, claridad, libertad de expresarnos y no pensar qué van a decir los demás. A mí no me interesa qué van a decir los demás, me interesa simplemente que la gente despierte, pero en verdad, no nada más así de, ay, sí, yo acá muy zen, muy sustentable, ecológico, pero no haces eso. Y en tu casa, ¿cómo tienes tu casa? ¿Cómo te rodeas con la gente que está, o que convives con la gente que tienes alrededor? No sé, pónganse a pensar que no nada más es de venir aquí, sí, hablamos de todo esto. No, pero hay que hacerlo. Nosotros, a pesar de que ahorita yo estoy hablando otro idioma, no es cierto, tenemos el mismo idioma, vamos para el mismo camino, que es la humanidad, defendernos. Eso se entiende aquí en China, como dicen, defendernos. Hoy estamos en una guerra psicológica, biológica, nadie la ve, pero estamos en guerra. Me decían, es que ¿por qué le estás diciendo en la calle tanta cosa? Porque yo me estoy poniendo de ejemplo que no está pasando nada. No está pasando nada. En el sentido, sí está pasando cosas, pero me refiero a que no está pasando nada porque en mi entorno no estoy permitiendo que entren ese tipo de cuestiones horribles. No lo estoy permitiendo. Por eso yo digo que no pasa nada. Me querían hacer viral en un estado allá cuando fui a visitar a mi familia, porque yo me puse a grabar en plena pandemia y todo esto. Pues no está pasando nada, yo estoy paseando, miren acá. Había gente hasta fumando, policías ahí cotorreando, platicando. Y hay gente que le pudo, yo entiendo que mucha gente perdió a familiares y así, pero no, a mí no, yo no me voy a estar bloqueando porque si alguien se murió, discúlpenme, pero hay que ponernos las pilas, hay que ser fuertes, hay que ser guerreros para continuar en este camino de libertad. Aquí dice, por encima de todo, sigue tu conciencia, honra tu poder y soberanía. Clarito, no hay mucho que hacer, es sencillo, nosotros tenemos el poder, nosotros decidimos si queremos irnos al precipicio o queremos escalar la montaña. Todo está en nosotros, todo. No hay ninguna atadura. Mantenernos lúcidos, aunque yo a veces siento que cuando me veo al espejo pues parezco medio zafada y loquita, pero estoy tan emocional que pues eso no es para mí, ¿no? Y no es para ninguno de nosotros. Hay que estar lúcido, sano, con un sano juicio, con sentido común, con entereza. Y aquí viene lo bueno, que es lo que tenemos que hacer. Lo comentaba, ¿no? Hay que tener esto, una educación real, consciente y humanista. Eso nos va a llevar a estar tranquilos cuando ya no estemos aquí. Yo tengo 4 sobrinos que ya desde chiquitos ya les estamos inculcando esa valentía, libertad, conciencia y fuerza, lo que tiene su tía Susana, eso y lo que mi madre, que aquí está presente, le estamos inculcando a nuestros niños. Y no nada más a los niños de mi familia o a los niños de su familia, de cada uno, no, hay que hacerlo también con todos los demás, porque ellos van a seguir esto. Es importante esta parte, infundir una educación real. ¿La educación real cuál es? La de la vida, no la del adoctrinamiento. Yo ya lo entendí hace unos años. ¿Qué pasa si hay un movimiento de situaciones peligrosas y todo esto? ¿Qué vas a hacer? ¿Qué te va a ayudar? Que sepas todo lo que es agricultura, cosas de oficios, de herrería, electrónica, cocina, no sé, ese tipo de cuestiones sí ayudan a la vida, sí te hacen más fuerte y aparte que cada uno pues tienes que ir leyendo, haciendo y eso es lo que vamos a generar con estos humanos, estos nuevos humanos que vamos a dejar nosotros que somos los conscientes, nosotros que somos los despiertos, vamos a dejar eso. Es importante que nosotros tengamos humanos como nosotros, dejar esa semilla. Eso nos va a llevar a seguir más adelante y que esta humanidad pues no se elimine o se destruya. Es importante eso, que los humanos podamos vernos como lo somos, ¿no? Esta familia y linaje. Así tenemos que ser, cuidar gen de Dios que yo le llamo así. Esa es la nueva humanidad que estamos aquí, hay que inculcarlo. Y bueno, eso es todo lo que quería platicarles y pues muchas gracias por la invitación y vamos a seguir uniendo fuerza. Yo doy el 100% y vamos a seguir creciendo como comunidad. Y muchas gracias, espero esto los haya motivado un poco. Bienvenidos a este 5º día. Muchas gracias y abrazos para todos. Bye. Gracias.
Make some more noise for Susana. Yes, we're so grateful to have her here. Yes, gracias. All right. Y'all feeling good? Hey, look, I just want to make a note earlier because I've already had a few sad people come up to me. Yes, it is the last day. Let's soak up every moment of this, okay? I mean, so many of you have shared kind, empowering, uplifting, humbling messages with Miriam and I about what the last 4 days have meant to you, and it makes all the work we've done for the last 6 months worth every moment of it. So thank you guys so much for being here, for enjoying it. Everybody who's watching at home, again, we hope you're here. Let's make some more noise for the people at home. Get them here next year. Come on. Let them hear you. We want you here next year. Wherever you're at listening in the world, we would love to have you here in person. It really means the world to have all your support and to know that you guys cherish what we're trying to build here. And again, it wouldn't be anything without you being here. So I hope you will all come. Who's coming back next year? Who's coming back to Morelia next year? We hope you'll come back. And if you don't come back, you should just do the things we're talking about. You don't even need to come back. Just start building the better world, and then we'll see you on the other side. All right, we're going to roll into our next speaker, who is another good friend of mine who's just been doing powerful work for years, and particularly helping people see that government is a scam. Did anybody go to the concert last night? Yeah. Did anybody hear Presence speak? Kept repeating that, you know, we're living in a scam. Government is a scam. They're lying to us. It's a scam. Well, Etienne is going to talk to us about the philosophy of voluntarism. We're here to talk about solutions. And many of us recognize that, yes, governments of the world have created problems, and the COVID-19 84, we could keep going down the line of all the different false flags and psyops that we've all experienced in the last decades and just generations. But we should do more than just point to the government and say government's doing bad things. Maybe there's a deeper message. Maybe there's a philosophy that we can look to that might actually give us some answers to recognize that it's not just that government's corrupt or inefficient, but that government is actually immoral itself, and that it's a part of the problem. And the sooner we recognize that, the better off we'll all be. So to tell us more about that, Etienne de la Boetie squared. Come on up, brother. Make some noise for him. You guys are going to be in for a great presentation. All right.
So my name is Etienne de la Boetie squared. That is a nom de plume. I am the founder of the Art of Liberty Foundation. We're a startup public policy organization focused on both exposing the illegitimacy and the criminality of government, and also on real solutions like voluntarism and free markets and mutual aid societies that can provide everything that the government provides better, faster, and cheaper. My book is Government, the Biggest Scam in History Exposed. The subtitle of the book is How Intergenerational Organized Crime Runs the Government, the Media, and Academia. And kind of the executive summary of the book is that government was never really intended to protect life, liberty, and property, and it's really best thought of as a technique for robbing and controlling populations. But they've been getting away with it because they've been controlling the information that society receives about the legitimacy and the desirability of government through either the mandatory government school system, through the monopolized media system, the algorithmic censorship of the DARPA internet. And if I was to really, take the executive summary of the problem, is that we've got an intergenerational organized crime system centered around banking and central banking. They're creating money out of thin air using fractional reserve banking that's stealing the value out of everybody else's dollars that they earn and save. And they've been buying up the media, and they've been buying up the corporations, and they've been buying everything up. They've been centralizing the ownership of that plant, property, equipment, and companies under BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, and other large capital management firms. And then they've been organizing the C-level executives of those companies stolen through fractional reserve banking into organizations like the World Economic Forum, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderberg Group, the Trilateral Commission, and others. And that is those organizations give this intergenerational organized crime system the ability to meet privately, as they're doing in Davos, in secure facilities that have been swept for bugs, where they're organizing against us as we're exposing, what they're doing. And so that's really, my kind of executive summary of the problem. But if government has been the biggest scam in history, then what is the alternative? What is the, what is the system that we can live under? And so the name of my upcoming book, people tell me all the time, hey, your book is amazing. It does such an amazing job of exposing the illegitimacy and the criminality of government, but what are you going to do? Who's going to build the roads? And I don't want to be my wife to be raped by Mad Max type street gangs while I'm at work. And so we've just got to have government. And so really what I want to kind of talk about today is the fact that we don't need government. And so the executive summary of the executive summary on the solution, which is the title of my talk and the title of my upcoming book, is how the only ism fair for everyone leads to harmony, prosperity, and good karma for all. And so for those of you who are not familiar with voluntarism, the idea is that all relations between human beings must be voluntary. Nobody gets the ring of power. Nobody has rights that other people don't have. Nobody has an exemption from morality. That's logical. That makes sense. That's moral. And luckily, there's also something inherent as the recognition that the world is a self-organizing system. It produces spontaneous order. And everything the government does would be done better, faster, cheaper through the free market, through mutual aid societies, through insurance companies, through dispute resolution companies, armed protective service providers, nonprofits, and real charities. And we're going to get into some of the mechanisms that allow the economic mechanisms that allow that to work. And so the good news message is you don't really need government. Everything the government does would be done better, faster, and cheaper by the free market. And so somewhat voluntarism is a little bit of the rebranding of peaceful anarchy. And anarchy doesn't mean no rules, it means no rulers. but the rulers don't want you to know that there's an option on the menu called no rulers. So they used control of this monopoly media system to change the meaning of the word no rulers to mean chaos and dystopia. And so anarchy has been purposefully mischaracterized as chaos. And so at the bottom, and I know it's hard to read, but I actually have a screenshot from the book Government, the Biggest Scam in History Exposed, comparing how they have literally changed the definition of the word anarchy in the dictionary. I compare the 1827 definition from the Webster's Dictionary to the current definition from the Merriam-Webster's Dictionary so that you can see how it's been purposefully mischaracterized. And then I break down that the Safra banking family bought and controls Encyclopedia Britannica, which owns Merriam-Webster Dictionary, and they have the head of the Council on Foreign Relations on the editorial advisory board. And so that is how they're changing language to be able to trick the population into going along with something that isn't in their interests. Now, luckily, I mentioned that the free market would deliver everything that the government does better, faster, and cheaper. And so I wanted to just go over some of the market mechanisms that provide public goods for free. And some of those include spontaneous order, which is the idea that the world is this self-organizing system. And when there's a need in the market, entrepreneurs step in and they fill that need, and they're going to do it more efficiently without the violence of government. The invisible hand is something, a term coined by the economist Adam Smith. It is not from the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, or the baker that we expect our dinner, but from the regard to their own interest. And so entrepreneurs in the market realize that people need their daily bread and the luxuries and the necessities of life, and so they provide them in a competitive marketplace that delivers goods and services more cost effectively than monopoly providers can do so, not because they love you, but because they love their own families and they're trying to do something good for their families. Market competition is the mechanism that kind of disciplines the entrepreneurs into the market not to be able to charge the absolute highest price, but have to be cost effective against other producers in the market. The price mechanism is the mechanism where people are assigning value to scarce goods and services so that people can understand, do I value this more or do I value that more? And that price mechanism is essential for economic cooperation across multiple continents. Capital formation. A lot of times successful entrepreneurs make profits, and those profits are then reinvested by the entrepreneurs into their businesses that they understand to be able to innovate and provide improvements in the goods and services that we enjoy on a daily basis. The discipline of constant dealing is a name for the mechanism that ensures that the majority of entrepreneurs in the market aren't going to cheat you. The gas station owner isn't going to sell you 0.75 gallon of gas, even though the pump says a gallon, because he's got to continue to do business, and he's not going to risk a profitable business by, in most cases, cheating a couple of his customers. And so these are just kind of a few of the market mechanisms. Now, on the other side of the ledger, government makes everybody poorer. And so at the same time that the free market is producing innovation and creativity and and market competition, governments are awarding monopolies often to inefficient providers. They're creating economic misallocation by taking money that you earn and save and might invest in a local business or something that you know would benefit your community, and they're wasting it on $14,000 toilet seats or all of the ridiculous things that government spends your money on. Government frequently provides subsidies for inefficient businesses through crony capitalism. They frequently induce price and capital controls that stifle these market mechanisms that would direct scarce resources to where they're needed the most. One example I like to use is hurricanes. When a hurricane comes in, the price of plywood goes up dramatically. That's a signal to the market that Florida needs plywood. And when you stifle that signal, all of a sudden, Florida's not getting the plywood that it needs, and so these things, tend to, kind of work themselves out absent government control. Central planning, inflationary monopoly money. Inflationary monopoly money is probably the most odious and most harmful thing that the government does. By allowing the banks to create money out of thin air using fractional reserve banking, they're stealing the value out of everybody's money. Absent a crooked monetary system, your dollar or your peso or your yen or your Deutschmark should be buying more and more every single year as innovations and productivity improvements reduce the cost of either producing or distributing the luxuries and the necessities of life. Tariffs and trade barriers prevent people from doing business with other companies frequently because politically connected companies have lobbied and bribed the government for those protections. Import-export quotas, bailouts, and subsidies for failing businesses. All of these things make us poorer while the market makes us richer. Now, besides the economic efficiency of the market, there's a moral case for voluntarism. And so at kind of the core is something called the non-aggression principle, which is a moral stance that asserts that aggression is inherently illegitimate no matter the result of those actions is damaging, beneficial, or neutral to the owner. And so if you see someone using violence, that's how you know they're the bad man. If they're threatening violence on peaceful people, that's how you know they're the bad man. And you can't have a government without violence, without extortion, without the violence of the state. And so when you really think about it, voting for a political party is advocating that violence be used on your friends and your family and your neighbors who disagree. And so if you think about what the Democrats offer, they're saying, hey, elect my guy, and he's going to rob everybody, and he's going to put these policies into action. And the Republicans say, no, elect my guy, and he's going to rob everybody, and he's going to put these policies into action. And voluntarists are the only ones that step back and say, hey, how about we don't rob anybody? The world is a self-organizing system. It produces spontaneous order, and everything would be better if you just left us alone. Now, there's also a logical case for voluntarism, and because everything else is immoral, unproven, or has failed. And so when I say that voluntarism is the only ism fair for everyone and produces good karma for all, everything else, all the other isms, socialism, communism, constitutional republicanism, all of those have a ruling class that has rights that you don't. Where did the ruling class get these rights? If my girlfriend and myself can't vote to rob you because there's two of us and one of you, it doesn't matter if there's 3 of us or 10 of us or 335 million of us. There's no magical additional person that makes something that was immoral and illogical now moral and logical just because the mob wants to rob Peter to pay Paul or lynch black folks. You know, just because the mob outnumbers their victims doesn't make it right. And so the non-aggression, thank you. So the non-aggression principle should apply to everyone, or it would be dumb to give potential political opponents an exemption from morality. Now, there's also a utilitarian case for voluntarism because free markets produce the goods. Commerce benefits both parties, or there isn't an exchange. Now, when many people think of capitalism and they think of the market system, they take a look at what we have today, which is not capitalism and is not a market system at all. It's best characterized as crony capitalism, and it has distorted the market by rewarding cartel companies financed by unlimited fractional reserve banking and monopolized under BlackRock and Vanguard to buy up the world with the little paper tickets that they create out of thin air. You simply would not have the monopolization, the chain stores, the world that we have today if the banks weren't cheating. And the analogy that I like to use is imagine you're playing Monopoly and the banker is reaching under the table and grabbing $500 bills. Well, at the end of the game, who owns every single thing on the board and who are renters and debtors? And so that's what we've got going on right now, and it's not capitalism, it's not a market system. It's best thought of as cronyism, and it's not representative of the market as well. The market is the mechanism that provides you blueberries and strawberries today as you walked in, avocados in December in New York City. I could go on and on. The market is the thing that is delivering the goods and producing it. And by the way, we know this because there are a number of different think tanks, Cato in the United States, Fraser in Canada, that regularly survey the economic and the political freedom that different countries have around the world. And across the board, the more economic and political freedom you have, the more prosperity you have. And so the voluntarist case is, well, let's just extend that to maximum economic freedom and maximum personal freedom, and then that will give us maximum economic progress and wealth and prosperity to all. Now, there's one more case. I call it the I don't want to be a chump case for voluntarism. And the I don't want to be a chump case for voluntarism is that statism and the system that we live under today is being openly and obviously propagandized to the masses using mandatory schools, scouting, monopoly media, product placement in movies, games, and shows, paid for indoctrination, military academies, basic training, ROTC, and paid for statism. It's stadium spectacles. And so once you understand that this is going on, nobody likes to get chumped, nobody likes to get tricked, and so that's the reason for not going along with it. Now, the world routinely produces spontaneous order right now. Smartphones, bookstores, airlines, movies are examples of very complex, large-scale supply chains where you have complex organization without centralized control. And the organic, grassroots, spontaneous order of the market routinely produces public goods. Underwriter Laboratories certifies electronic equipment for safety. The Ocean Cleanup Project is removing plastics from oceans and rivers. The Non-GMO Project is certifying non-GMO ingredients where the government flat out wouldn't do it. Consumer Reports tests and reviews everything. The North Maine Woods, for those of you, is anybody here familiar with the North Maine Woods? In Maine, there are 3.5 million acres of privately owned and managed forest. Some of it is timber companies, some of it is private landowners, some of it is nonprofits that are managing an area that is twice the size of Massachusetts. And it has privately built roads and many of the same camping amenities found in national parks. They're not saying, oh, it's private, you can't come on here. They're providing many of the exact same amenities. There's an organization called Rural Metro Fire. It's a for-profit company that provides fire protection to dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of communities. They provide EMS, rescue, medical aid at vehicle accidents, and even wildland fire protection. Detroit Threat Management, which David Rodriguez mentioned yesterday, provides cost-effective armed protective services in Detroit, where the monopoly police are notoriously inefficient and corrupt. NAV Canada is a privately run nonprofit corporation that owns and operates Canada's civil air navigation system. So Canada privatized their version of the FAA, and airplanes aren't dropping out of the sky in Canada. Kiva provides crowdsourced loans to the entrepreneurs in some ways the same way that the Small Business Administration does. And again, I just want to emphasize that if you're, so the good karma is if you are voting for, advocating, or supporting government, then you are voting to rob your friends and neighbors who disagree. You're advocating violence as a solution to socioeconomic problems. You're legitimizing the system that is enslaving you. And to some degree, I actually believe that the karma that statists receive for trying to push their failed, immoral, illogical system on everybody else is they themselves are enslaved by the system that they're trying to push and advocate on everybody else. I'm just going to run down some very, very quick solutions. Find others and get organized is essentially what we're doing right here. There's powers in numbers, and you are part of a safety net. I think Freedom Cells is a great example of that. This is a picture of a group picture of the Porcupine Freedom Festival. There's a which is in New Hampshire. It's the largest liberty conference of the Free State Project. The video below is a video of tax collectors that showed up at the Porcupine Freedom Festival in 2015 and tried to collect something called the meals tax in New Hampshire. They were surrounded, they were mocked, and they were run off, and the tax man has never been back to the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and that is the power of numbers. Get prepped for a dollar devaluation or a collapse. One of my favorite things is just pay in cash. Okay, the number one thing you could do, you heard Jason Basler talking about the threat of CBDCs. We have to keep cash alive. When you're paying in cash, you're saving the merchant 1.5 to 2.5%. At the same time, you're starving the bank of 1.5 to 2.5%. You allow the business to pocket the cash so that they don't have to pay the money to the tax man, where they can spend it in the local economy for maybe their kids' music lesson or something like that. I could go on. I think I'm getting the hook right now. I think you get the idea. The free market delivers the goods. We simply do not need government. Counter economics is really my last slide here. Don't pay taxes. Work off the books. Shop at the farmer's market and pay cash. Shop local versus Amazon and the chain stores. Growing your own food is like printing your own money. Use credit unions versus money center banks. My book, I mentioned, I've got a book coming out. It will be called Voluntarism, How the Only Ism Fair for Everyone Leads to Harmony and Prosperity for All. And my organization is the Art of Liberty Foundation, and this is where you can find us. And I thank everyone for your time and attention and for doing what you do.
Yeah, make some more noise for Etienne. All right, we're going to continue on. We're going to pick it up, and we're going to go into our next speaker, Lainey Liberty. For those of you who are interested in the children, and those of you who have come here and said that we need more children programming, we need to think about the future generations, and those of you who understand that the kids are the future, that all of the work we're doing is for the future generations, then you're going to really enjoy this next presentation. In fact, Lainey and I, we're hoping next year we'll be able to do more kids programming, teen programming, family programming for those of you who know that it's necessary. So please give a warm welcome to Lainey Liberty.
Hello, everybody. How is everybody this morning? Good? So I'm going to start off, and I'm going to ask everybody to take 3 breaths with me. But let me give you the instructions first. I want you to think about all the love that you have, that you've ever experienced, and the love that's out here. And I want you to inhale and bring that love into your heart and exhale anything that is contrary to that. So instead of explaining it while we're doing it, you guys get the instructions, right? You got it. Okay, so let's do 3 really big breaths and bring that love into our heart. So inhale, everybody. And exhale and feel the love in your heart. Inhale and exhale. Last time. Inhale and exhale. And does everybody feel centered into their heart? So what I'd like for you to do, whatever feels best for you, look to the people on either side of you. Look them in the eye and either use this symbol as you share the love that you just felt, or put your hands on your heart. Okay? So go ahead and do that with your neighbors. Yeah. So did you guys know that we have this thing in our brain called mirror neurons? Yeah. So mirror neurons were discovered by neuroscientists in the early 90s, and they recognized that human development relied on the use of these mirror neurons. And what it does is it allows us to empathize with one another. Now, children rely on their parents to be able to understand how the world is reflected through their parents' eyes. Now, what that means is they're learning empathy, they're learning connection, and this is part of the human condition, right? And from 0 to 7, all of the belief systems that we develop, not all of them, but the majority of the belief systems that we have, that we carry around with us as adults, are developed in these early years. Now, can you imagine being raised by a parent who didn't show you affection or mirror back to you empathy or compassion? Can you imagine? So the program beliefs that we have are really a part of those early experiences as well as traumas. Who here identifies as somebody who grew up with trauma? Yeah. Did you know a recent survey in the United States says that about 70% of all adults in the United States have some form of unrecognized or unprocessed trauma? That number is incredibly high. And we're going to talk a little bit about trauma and processing beliefs a little bit today. But we're going to bring this into the context of being a parent and also raising children. So, as I said, from 0 to 7, there's the core foundational beliefs. The way that we see the world is the way that the world has been reflected back to us with our relationship with our parents. And even the best intending parents that are living with unprocessed trauma don't necessarily have the ability to connect in such an authentic way with their children. And what does this do? This perpetuates a pattern of generational trauma. Even something as simple as not validating the need of a child, because let's face it, as a baby, we can't take care of ourselves. Every single one of us was a baby in this room. There's no getting around that. And we relied on another human being to meet our needs. And the crazy thing about nature is this: we don't have the reflective way of processing that, oh, mom must have been busy or she was on a phone call. All we know is that in that moment, our needs were not met. And if there is a pattern of these experiences, our small developing brains tell us the world's not safe, my needs aren't important, and some of us have these core foundational beliefs that we need to overcome, like, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough. And even the well-intending parents weren't trying to perpetuate this belief system among our children. It happens. And so today what I'm going to talk about is belief systems. I'm going to talk about how to raise a family within the freedom-minded, anarchist perspective, voluntarist perspective. I'm also going to challenge each one of you, even if you're not a parent, to participate in a culture that stops these generational patterns. Thank you. So the first day, we heard a little bit about programming. We heard about the subconscious. And I'm taking a lot of the topics that we've already explored and bringing it into a different framework. Who here has been triggered this week? All right. All right. Now, triggers serve the purpose to tell us about what's happening in our internal worlds. This is really important. However, I will say to you, if you have an emotional response or a dysregulated nervous system, there are some belief systems in your subconscious belief that are not congruent. And so this indicates to each one of you that there's some work to do. And I'm even going to talk about them, those that are meeting in Davos. I'm going to talk about them that believe things very different. I'm going to talk about them that are trying to control the lives of us. And I'm going to talk about how we can connect in a way that creates heart congruence with our innermost thoughts. Who here remembers the first day? And there was a graphic up, I can't remember the name of the speaker, that was talking about subconscious programming. And Yes, yes. Thank you. Jason Christoph. He was amazing. His graphic showed that, and I usually use, when I'm talking about this, 5%. 5% of our brain processing in the conscious mind is, the stuff that we're aware of, what's happening right now. His graphic showed that 97% processes in the subconscious. We're going to talk a little bit about the subconscious processing first. So the numbers are slightly different, and I've always learned and studied that it was 5% versus 95, but it's somewhere in that range. So if we are only aware of 5% of what the processing or thoughts or belief systems from a conscious perspective, there's a lot going on back here in the other 95%. Yes, there's the brain telling the heart to pump to pump blood and to take care of all of the body systems, and that's not what I'm talking about. What I am talking about is that subconscious programming from 0 to 7 and even beyond, but the foundational beliefs start there about who we are in this world. And those belief systems are there as pattern thoughts. Now, the subconscious mind does its thing. The subconscious mind does not like to change, and the subconscious mind runs a pattern over and over and over. And anytime we have a habitual thought like, the world is not safe, my needs aren't going to be met, it's not showing up here in the 5% or the 3% or whatever the present processing is. It's showing up back here, and it's filtering out everything else in order for us to see that belief. And the thing that's the scariest to understand is that the brain does not know the difference between truth or a lie. All the brain knows is that when it habitually thinks a thought, and a thought that is programmed, that becomes the dominant thought or the pattern of thinking, and the brain sees that as a truth. Now, this is really fucked up for those of us that are on a mission to live a life of truth, is it not? All right, so there's a lot of unpacking that we have to do here. And I just wanted to bring that to your attention. And who here was raised in a paradigm of conventional parenting? I'm the boss. You do as I say, right? I would say, raise your hand again. I would say almost 100% of the people that are here in Mexico. I certainly was. I was raised, I was yelled at every single day of my life. It created a belief system about who I was and what my value is. And what I'm going to share with you today is, again, how to break those generational patterns so our children are not reliving the same patterns. So conventional parenting really, there was no other option. Up until about the 1950s or 60s, where attachment parenting started to become the conversation, and it really was less about brain attachment who here knows about attachment styles? Yeah, okay. So that really didn't come into the forefront of popular culture until the 70s or 80s. And so, yes, attachment parenting started to become part of the conversation, but we really didn't know what that did to the brain up until the 70s or 80s. And since then, there's been a rash of all these incredible different styles of parenting. So I'm going to ask you guys, and even if you're not a parent, and I'm going to talk about that in a moment, but who here has heard of conscious parenting? Yeah? And who here has heard of gentle parenting and connected parenting, hand-in-hand parenting? Okay, Les. All parenting. Anybody? Nobody's heard of that one? All right. There are so many paradigms now in the parenting world, including attachment parenting. And I've read almost all of the books on everything. This became really my vision, my mission when I became a parent. I am an autodidactic. I also, which I didn't introduce myself for those of you that don't know my story, I am a mom to a really amazing son. He is now going to be 25 in April, which blows me away. But when I became a parent, I knew exactly how I did not want to parent. I did not want to parent in the same way that I was parented. And in fact, as an autodidactic and somebody with a trauma response, which really created a hyper-independence, which meant nobody's going to teach me how to do anything. I'm going to learn this on myself. I'm going to research everything that I could. It brought me down some incredible rabbit holes. Now, I could talk about all the brilliance in all of these different styles of parenting, but I'll tell you, also as somebody who was diagnosed with ODD. Do you guys know what that is? Okay, you too. All right. Somebody with oppositional defiant disorder means don't tell me what the fuck to do. I'm going to do it myself, right? Well, that is everybody here, right? I mean, this is the foundation of my anarchy, right? Thank you, parents, my parents, for raising me in the manner in which you did, because my brain was wired in such a way that brings me the strength to stand here on the stage and live the life that I have lived. Yeah. So thank you. There's, a beautiful cycle in all of this. But conventional and controlled parenting, time for it is done. But what I did notice in all of these different paradigms of parenting is, even as gentle, kind, peaceful, conscious, aware, connected, there is still a thread of manipulation to get your children to manipulate them to behave in a way, consciously, gently, or even peacefully, in a way that works for you as the parent. And I'm here to tell you that is bullshit. So let's take all the different types of parenting and use the tools from those parenting styles that actually work. And we're just gonna let go of the manipulation part that doesn't. And so what I do, and I'm actually working on my second book right now on something which I call partnership parenting, which is really code name for anarchist parenting. So let's talk about that. So before I do, I want to talk first about what is a freedom family. And a freedom family is all of you that are here today. We are, you, I, communities. We're seekers of the truth. We're grandparents, parents, children. We're aunts. We're uncles. We're cousins. We're young adults. Hi, Rosie. And we all recognize that we're here to reject the system many of us were forced to be raised in. We are all freedom, part of this freedom family. Yes, thank you. And so the reason why we're on this path, besides truth and empowerment, we do want a better life for the next generation, or as Derek says, for the next 7 generations. So let's do this, guys. So let me tell you what partnership parenting is. And I gave it the word partnership because partnership, well, first of all, it's a little more accessible to people that are rejecting the word anarchist, because we know through programming, and we know that that word has a subconscious connection to violence and craziness and all the stuff that anarchism really is not. So we're going to use the word partnership. And even though I think that word is a little more benign, I do have a presence on social media, and a lot of the social media is very mainstream. I still get hordes and hordes of parents, especially on Instagram when I'm talking about the work that I do with teens, which I'll tell you about a little bit later. They are so triggered, conscious belief or subconscious belief, about the word partnership. My teens don't need partnership. They need structure. You had me until you used the word partnership. So I'm really going to be working for the next few years, focusing on making this word accessible to families as a way to consider a way to be with their children. Now, what partnership means is, number one, a non-authoritarian paradigm in the family. How does that sit with you guys? Does that feel good? Yeah. Because how can we raise freedom-loving children who become freedom-loving adults if they were raised in an authoritarian paradigm? Remember the mirror neurons? They are learning the beliefs about who they are and how they fit into the world. So if we raise our children in partnership, in a non-authoritarian paradigm, we are laying those pattern beliefs in our children so they don't have to reprogram like all of us had to. The next foundation is develop a family culture of high emotional intelligence and greater mental health. And again, those mirror neurons come into play with empathy. And I'm going to give you a list of some of the ways that we can do that in our families. But like I said, watch out in 2025 for my book, which will have very specific tools on that. That's really important. One of the things that people constantly comment about Miro, who actually was here on stage with me on the second grader reset, was he has such an incredible foundation of emotional intelligence. He knows who he is. He knows what he's feeling. He knows how he fits into the world. And he is not manipulated by fear from the outside, because the foundation of knowing thyself is such an important part of his makeup that he can walk through the planet knowing who he is. And that emotional intelligence is such a big part of partnership parenting. Here's the third one, which may trigger some of you because we have heard throughout this conference that, well, anarchism means living without rulers, and I've heard many people say anarchism means no way. Living without rules. I mean, it does not mean not living without rules. And I'm going to say to you that if you have a family that has rules, you have just placed somebody in the position to be the rule maker, to be the rule enforcer, and also to be the rule punisher when the rules are broken. And that is not living outside of an authoritarian paradigm. That is creating an authoritarian paradigm, even so kind-heartedly or consciously you choose to do that. I can't even believe how much I've been talking, and my time is almost up. Let me just get through these really quick. The way that you live in a family without rules is by living in alignment with values and principles. And I'm going to get into those two things a little bit deeper into my book, but those two things alone provide enough framework in each individual to be able to say, I choose not to do this. This is not in alignment with my values or my principles, or I will choose to do this because it doesn't threaten those things. This is a big trigger point for many people. Again, I'm saying we need to live in families without rules. But just hold on to that thought. The next foundation of partnership parenting is creating a culture in your families where everybody is seen, heard, and understood. Funny enough, that's the name of my first book, and I happen to have 5 copies with me left. If you want to purchase a copy, you're welcome to find me after my talk. The next foundation of partnership parenting is cultivating a culture where saying no about consent. I do not consent that you touch me in that way. I don't wish to be hugged. I don't wish to be kissed, or whatever that is. Cultivating a culture where saying no is okay. And I talk a lot about in other conferences about saying yes and how that relates to stepping outside of your comfort zone. But in terms of partnership parenting, that no from children, parents, siblings, aunts and uncles needs to be respected. And finally, the last foundation of partnership parenting is always reaching for connection over coercion. And I'm quickly going to just list off these quick 12 ways to be in partnership with parents. And I'm sorry I spoke so long in the beginning because I've got so much to share with you. But if I don't get to your questions, or if something's not clear, find me. I'm here today throughout the rest of the day. But here they are. How to be in partnership with children. Number 1, de-school. Clear up your limiting beliefs and programming adults. This is what you are accountable for. Number 2, get your children out of the school system today. Number 3, always reach for connection over coercion. Number 4, be present. And I could speak 3 hours about what that looks like with children. Being present with children means putting your damn cell phone down, listening to them, connecting if you've got a teenager at midnight when they finally want to talk. Be present. Number 5, you know that one. Prioritize them in the moment. Okay, so prioritize your children in the moment, please, which is, of course, part of being present. Number 6, match the emotion of your children. If your child is in pain, don't smile at them and say, oh, it's okay. Match the intensity of the emotion. This, again, is neuron mirroring, and it shows that they're validated, they're seen, heard, and understood. If they are having a fit, don't, of course, you need to be regulated, but you need to match that energy. So the affect, matching is very important, and this takes skill and practice. Number 7, listen, reframe, and repeat back, and you can do this with the youngest children. It could start at any age. Oh, I see that you're feeling really, really sad. Is that true? Okay, so make sure that you get into a practice of reframing. If they are too young, you can narrate what their emotional state is and ask them for confirmation. Number 9, do not make your child wrong. Just don't do it. Number 10, that was not. Yeah, number 9, don't make your child wrong. Number 10, mirror their state, which is something, oh, hey, I listed that twice. Number 11, when they're older, when they're regulated, explore with them what natural consequences are. And number 12, please ask your children at any age, how can I best support you in this right now and moving forward? And that's really important. Guys, I did say that I've got 5 books here, and if you're interested in the work that I do with teens or the work that I do with parents, I do have a gift for you. So take out your phones now and go to partnershipparent.com/The Greater Reset. And if you'd like to stay in connection with me, there is a sign-up sheet there, and I will send you a free gift, and we can continue to keep these conversations going. And the very, very, very last thing is, when I work with about 35 teens every single week, and when I told one of my teens I wasn't available this week, they said, oh, sure, Lainey, you're going to be on stage. Sure, take a selfie with everybody. So I'm going to do a quick selfie with you guys, and I need for you guys to give me a thumbs up, and this is for one of the teens that I work with. You guys willing? Okay. Here we go, guys. So here we go. All right. Here, you hold this.
Make some noise for Lainey, everybody. Awesome. Give her a big round of applause, everybody. Doing the really important work, mentoring the next generation. Thank you so much for everything you do, Lainey. All right, everybody. I know there's a lot of presentations this morning. We like to pack it in and almost overwhelm you. We've got 2 more before lunch. We're going to be going a little bit past 12:30. I'll warn you, about 12:40, not too much, so you'll still have time to eat. And so with that in mind, we're going to go ahead and bring up Rebecca Bush. Please welcome her to the stage. She's going to talk to you about buying land, the exit and build strategy.
Okay, should I come off and grab it? Okay. Hey, how's everyone doing this morning? Whoop, whoop. It's been a great 5-day event. I know we're all feeling energized on day 5, as if it were day 1. But I don't know about you, I'm feeling inspired, excited, rejuvenated. I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of in a little bit of a rut the last 6 months. Has anyone experienced a phase in their life where they're just in a rut? Like, things keep going wrong, you're kind of doubting yourself, you know that you're destined for greatness, but you just, on a day-to-day basis, aren't finding that motivation or that willpower to really give it your all because you're feeling like drawn down to self-doubt and is this really gonna work, and just overcoming that has been a challenge, I'm not gonna lie, but the event, the last 5 days, experiencing this, networking with everyone, this really has brought a newfound sense of just inspiration and excitement and enthusiasm. And I just want to express my gratitude to all of you who are here, everyone that I've had an opportunity to connect with. Thank you for being here. For everyone watching online, thank you for tuning in. And yay! All right, let's get this thing going. I have a presentation. Oh, how convenient. There it is. Okay, and I just pressed this. Okay, so Agenda 2030. Woo! Back to that whole like funk situation that I was in. Does anyone else feel a little like freaked out that this is actually a plan that's being enacted and that you can't fall victim to, but rather having to take that responsibility of doing something about it, the alternative, and building those parallel institutions and alternative counter-economics and living this lifestyle we all know is possible despite what's coming down the pike? Is anyone else feeling a little anxious about this? Like, let's be honest. That's why we're here, right? You know, we need one another. We need to be inspired. We need to be positive. And so, you know, for me, 2030, that's in like 6 years. So I propose, rather than freaking out and being in a funk and being negative, we build that alternative. And I feel the best way I can do that and share my gifts with the world is by creating a replicable model for eco-village development and intentional communities. So who in this room is already living on a piece of land, gardening, maybe living in community, off the grid? Okay, so it's a pretty small percentage at this point, and that's okay, you know, like it makes a lot of financial sense to live in a city, to live in an apartment, or even, you know, traditional single-family home. What I will be speaking about today is what it will take if you are interested. Who's interested in living in a community? Okay, a lot more people are interested in this but aren't necessarily doing it yet. Great, okay. Well, then I think this talk is going to be really helpful for you. Because a few years ago, I had the idea of buying a piece of land and living off the grid. But the problem was I was like 21 and I didn't really know what I was doing. So I kind of went down this process of like learning, just like this rabbit hole of learning. And for those of you who don't know me yet, my name's Rebecca Bush. I am the co-producer of an event called the Exit and Build Land Summit. Let me hear you in the crowd if you have been to our event, if you've heard of our event. Yeah? Awesome. I'm going to share a little bit more about the upcoming event we're doing in a few months. But yes, this is what I do for a living. You know, I inspire people to live off the grid, to build community, because I've experienced it myself, and it's so rewarding and so wonderful. And so I'm going to share with you 5 tips, 5 things that I've learned along my journey as a young 20-year-old trying to figure it out on my own, living in Texas with no family, hardly any friends, and from there building out a great local Central Texas Freedom Cell network, counter economy, and now owning 10 acres just east of Austin, Texas. So that's a little bit about me. Before I bought the land, I was also helping with a tiny home community, one of the largest tiny home agri-hood communities in the world. And there was 178 lot locations in Austin, Texas, surrounding a 4-acre certified organic farm. So that was kind of like a crash course on not only living in community, but also being kind of like the customer care sales manager, selling the homes, and then dealing with the harder part, which was keeping all the residents happy, who are also my neighbors. So it was like this, and keeping the farmers happy with the developers, which there was some clashing there. So it was like a crash course, a really cool experience. But, you know, ultimately, sometimes in community, you have to also have that exit plan when things aren't, you know, bringing you, sparking joy, if you will. And sometimes in community, you know, a lot of infighting and things can happen like this. So thankfully, my husband John and I were able to purchase 10 acres and start our own community, much smaller, no conflict, less conflict, smaller scale, I think is a good place to start. So let me teach you what we learned along the way. And really the whole intention, right, is that we are destined to be in harmony with nature. We have to. There's like this correction happening right now. And I love this meme. So, overall, I think we can all agree that humans are meant to live in these, decentralized, smaller communities, which does make it better for conflict resolution or mitigation, and also having a deeper connection with one another and the land, first and foremost. So, I think the way a lot of people are living nowadays is isolated, feeling alone, maybe addicted to tech, addicted to fast food, processed food, etc., not having a connection with the food they eat or where it's grown or who, worked hard in order to plant that seed and harvest that crop, and just a disconnection that's brought us to a point of really needing to realign. So here's what I've learned along my way. I just knew I needed to get out. So I started working at farmers markets. I was selling natural products, and it was the first time in my life where I actually had real food, actual or real good organic food. I remember eating a carrot for the first time, and it wasn't one of those carrots that's bleach washed, that looks like a thumb at the grocery store. It's a real carrot, still had soil on it, and just tasting it and being like, holy shit, I was lied to my entire life. Whoa. And from then on, bartering at the farmers markets and connecting with other vendors and seeing the counter economy in real life and realizing this is possible. This is a better way. Let's, do this times 10 million all over the world instead of mass-produced, factory farms, centralized bullshit. Sorry to cuss. So I was like, okay, I'm spending $800 a month on an apartment, never gonna own this. I wasn't really making a lot of money back then. So for me, 10 grand a year in housing costs, this was in 2015, that was a lot for me. So I said, screw it. I'm gonna make my budget 10 grand, I'm gonna go buy an RV, I'm gonna move my RV to my friend's property and just pursue this lifestyle living in the country, which I was 23 or 24, I think. So it was actually not as exciting as it sounds, but I love the woman that I lived with. She's my mentor. She's amazing, and she taught me so much about permaculture. She taught me so much about Buckminster Fuller. I'd never even heard of him. So she really shaped and shifted my life, and for that experience, I'm eternally grateful. But, it took that leap of faith just to go find an RV and just say, screw it, I'm just gonna give this thing a try. And my whole life I'd been told, oh, you have a disorder, you're ADHD, you're hyperactive, you're this, you're that, blah, blah, blah. But when I lived in the country for the first time in my life, there was no traffic and noise and stimulation and distraction, and I finally felt this peace, this serenity, this connection to nature I'd never felt before. And that feeling is what helped motivate me to make the goal to purchase land before I turned 30. And so I was dead set on this goal, and I wasn't going to stop until I achieved it. So that's a little bit about me. I started doing the tiny homes. I was executive director of the Center for Natural Living. And now my husband and I are pursuing a larger land acquisition with our company, Exit and Build Property Solutions. So I'm just gonna roll through these, but this was me learning, just going out and being like, what's out there? Cobb Natural Building? Okay. Let's go see a 3D printed home at South by Southwest. Let's go to the geodesic dome and see the nursery and all the, the greenhouse and everything. So just literally 10 years of exploration of I'm just gonna go visit communities. I'm just gonna go see what's out there because I don't know all the answers. And to be honest with you, I'd never even gardened before in my entire life. So all of this was new to me. So I decided to go to communities that were doing this already and doing it successfully. And I started producing content about tiny homes because for me as a single woman in Texas with no family and very low income at the time because I was working with a startup, tiny homes for me were financial freedom and a freedom of mobility. So I was very passionate about tiny homes because I saw it as a leap pad to be able to then save up to buy land because I never would have been in a financial position had I not made the smaller house choices that I did in my mid and later 20s. So I lived in 400 square feet or less from the time I was 22 through 29. And now we still live in a pretty small house, but it's 1,200 square feet or 1,400 square feet, and it feels so much bigger. But anyway, that's when we bought our property. So we acquired the 10 acres, and from what I learned in this process, I'm going to share with you today. And just a caveat, I am based in the United States, so if you're living elsewhere, perhaps there's different terminology for some of the things I'm going to share. So here's how we did it. This was us the day that we closed on the property with our 2 kiddos and my little baby Agora, my Pomeranian. He's black and gray fur, so I named him Agora. But he, all of us were so joyous and so happy because we had finally achieved what we were working toward for so many years. And I want to get into also like who you're going to do this with, because family is so important, friends are so important, but ultimately like it's hard to do this alone. So finding your why and connecting with the people, who are you doing this for? It's not just for yourself, it's a bigger thing, right? So here's my 5-step framework. So we're going to jump into manifestation and mindset, finding your partners in tribe, a little bit of property acquisition, and if you don't have a down payment or if you're not wanting to finance or purchase cash, alternative ways to live in community without even needing a down payment, without needing any money, just getting right to the land. And so some shortcuts there, just like I did with my RV, plopping it on my friend's 50-acre property. Strategize and plan and get to work. So let's just reflect internally, like, what are you looking for? There's nothing more intimate than where you live. Like, your house is like part of your living organism in a sense. Like, it's like a womb, your container, it holds you. It literally has so much to do with everything of your everyday life, the color of the paint, the feeling of the home, the way that the windows are, set up, and the orientation with the sun. There's so many different factors. So what are you looking for? What do you want out of community or out of living the self-sufficient life? And, you're not going to get that unless you know what that is. So first you have to identify, of course, what is it that you're wanting, and then reenacting, what you're going to have to do in order to pull it off. So this was me. I was like, I'm just going to write down what I'm looking for, okay? So let me zoom in here. I own a 10-acre ranch. There are features that I love. It has hill country views, lots of trees, at least a 3-bed house. My ranch is 4-bed, 2.5 bath. That's what I wanted. Anyway, down the line. And what I did was I crossed off the things I didn't get on the list. But guys, I wrote this, months before we closed on the property. Look how many things we did pull off. I mean, if you just put it down on paper, if you just become clear, thanks, yeah, woohoo. But you're not going to get what you want if you don't know what that is. So you have to have that, begin with the end in mind and work backwards kind of mentality. And yeah, maybe you're going to get 8 out of the 10 things, but still, you got most of what you wanted, right? And that's what's most important. So just take a moment if you can, 30 seconds, a minute, close your eyes and think about it. When the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab say 2030, you will own nothing and you will be happy, is that going to be your 2030? Okay, so let's close our eyes. Let's really reflect on, where do you want to be in 5 years? What does that future for you and your family and your friends look like? What do you want it to look like? Who's with you? What kind of amenities around the land do you see? Is it an urban setting or rural setting? Where is it located in the world? And yeah, in terms of timing, I mean, working backwards, we're going to be at 2030 in 6 years. So just thinking, whew, take a little breath. Sorry, I know I talk fast. But it's really honing in on what it is you want and what it is you're pursuing and what that looks like for you, because it's different for everyone. And I'm not saying what we did is the only way. That's what we wanted. But, the beauty is you can really reflect internally on what it is you're looking for and, pursue it relentlessly. All right. And I wanted to have that too, just in terms of manifestation. I mean, that is the theme of the event. So whether you believe you can or not, you're right. So if you think, I'll never own land, I'll never be able to get the down payment, I'll never be able to find other people to go in on a property with, I'll never be able to grow my own food, I'll never be able to harvest my own energy and have solar panels and wind and blah, 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 then of course you're not going to do it. You have to truly believe in your heart and soul that you have the courage and you have what it takes to return to the land and to live this lifestyle, if that's what you want. And whatever your mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. So if you're a big thinker and you have big dreams and you're feeling a little like I did, I was in a funk, this is so heavy, this is so much. If you believe and you see it and you imagine it, it's just a matter of putting it on paper, grounding it, bringing it into the ether, and figuring out what you need to do to pull it off. So back to mindset also, I wasn't able to do this alone. I mean, even before John and I started dating, I wanted to buy land and I wanted to build community, and I was, in a sense, living in community. But, you know, it really takes finding people who can help you stay positive and uplifted, whether it's a romantic partner or a family member or a really close friend. So thank you, John, for being my rock and helping me to rise above. I was really struggling with addiction and alcoholism, and yeah. And John was in a funk at that point too, so I kind of helped get his mojo back, and we were just like immediately just both of us glowing. And really a lot can be done when you're in that space of love and operating from a space of love and a higher vibrational frequency. So just kind of tuning into that, and who makes you feel that way, and you know, really finding partners who will lift you up, because there's a lot of people who will want to tear you down and say, you can't do that, you're never going to pull that off. But it's about like blocking that out and just really connecting with those who believe in you, who will lift you up and bring you to that goal that you're wishing to achieve. But I'm going to plow through this because I know people don't like Teslas, but I knew I was going to drive a Tesla. And I posted on Instagram and I said, oh my gosh, you know, I told John I want to drive a Tesla. Next thing, he said, well, say I drive a Tesla. 2 days later at Village Farm at the tiny home community, a client came in with a Tesla and they said, oh, you can test drive my car. I was touring the property with them, driving the Tesla. And the second I drove that car, I said, this is the car for me. So I just worked hard, hard, hard. And look, here I am, the same exact model. Bought it 2 years later. I held it in my heart, I held it in my mind, and I ended up getting the car that I wanted, and I don't have to pay gasoline because I charge it with my solar panels and my Tesla Powerwalls, so haha. But anyway, it might take time, but if you really are, you know, dedicated and relentlessly pursuing it, then there's nothing that can stop you. Here's a cool story too. I actually, before John and I were even dating, I was like, more people need to know about eco-villages. And this was in like 2017. So I was like, I'm gonna put on the Amaji Living Eco-Village Tour. Amaji's the written hieroglyphic for return to the land, return to the mother. So that's why I named it that. But you know, people weren't maybe ready for this concept at that time, but I would just go put flyers up all over town and stuff at nurseries and different farms and things. And this is what it looked like when you entered, pretty chill. The venue that I hosted at was free. It was my friend's office. And guess what? 12 people showed up. 12, woo! But I have a picture of Mark from Valhalla Movement because I flew him down with the nonprofit funds that we had to get him as our headliner. And guess what, guys? He's coming back. Well, pretty sure we've talked about it, but no like contract has been signed or whatever, but he's planning to come back in May because here we are 4 years later, 500 people in person at the Exit and Build Land Summit. 25,000 people who registered for the first Exit and Build Land Summit live stream. So this is, you know, you don't always start successful, but if you keep pursuing in time, it can really build a lot of momentum. So I'd like to play a video. This is just a sizzle reel. I want you guys to see what it's like at the Exit and Build Land Summit because I was talking about finding partners and meeting people. And raise your hand if you've connected with someone at the Greater Reset and it's already been like life-changing. Like you've met so many people who have, wow, this is going to like completely accelerate my goals. Okay, it's important to go to events and it's important to network. So Exit and Build Land Summit is our baby, and I just want to give you guys a taste of how freaking epic it is. So let's go ahead and watch this sizzle reel, which has never been seen before. One sec. All right, well then I'll keep talking. I'm really good at talking. So but yeah, so basically your vibe attracts your tribe. And the reason I'm bringing up these events is because when you go to networking events or when you, and I'll get into other, you know.
There is.
Oh, we're ready. Okay, woo, here we go. And this was the Exit and Build Land Summit 3. So Exit and Build Land Summit 4 is coming up May 16th.
There is a global government. They are intending to exterminate us, and they want to enslave us. And they're going to do it through technology and through food control.
I think that the intelligence agencies probably know about this event. Is it a high priority for them? No. I mean, what are they going to care about a bunch of people who are curious about homesteading?
So the Exit and Build Land Summit, it just brings together an extraordinary collection of really world-class speakers who have the kind of knowledge that I think is critical for the sustainability and survivability of human civilization.
Exit and Build is this strategy, really, to bring about change in the world. Rather than yelling at government buildings, protesting, begging politicians to do the right thing, going to the ballot box every 2 to 4 years and feeling like we're honoring some civic obligation, we encourage people to exit the systems they disagree with, exit the systems they find to be reprehensible, and build new systems.
The threats that are looming that we aim to exit is essentially a parasitic, centralized system that is no longer serving us, is no longer serving the environment and the planet. And there has to be a new era of human consciousness that we can tap into alternative approaches to living in harmony with nature and living in harmony with our neighbors, and peace and collaboration and local economy and connection.
Exit and Build is not just about physical location, but it's about exiting from what I consider slavery systems of various types, systems that don't align with our values, that might actually hold us back or limit our freedom, and if not now, in the future will limit our freedom by continuing to be a part of them.
We are at the Exit and Build Land Summit 3, located at the Bastrop, Texas Convention Center.
I'm John Bush. I'm the founder of Live Free Academy, and along with my wife, Rebecca, we host the Exit and Build Land Summit, bringing together people who are looking to exit the cities, buy land, and build community in the country.
The country has been through over 100 years, several like big green, back to the farm, back to the earth movements, and this one seems different.
Our ultimate purpose is to attract like-minded people that care about freedom, get them out of the cities, and connect all these communities so one day we can experience true political autonomy and self-governance.
We are at the farm immersion tours for Exit and Build 3, and this is an integral part of what this event is about, because this is the hands-on application of taking in the knowledge and seeing firsthand how you actually apply it into your own homestead.
Well, the farm tour looks great, and it was fantastic to experience these people showing us homesteading life.
So we're at Habitable Spaces, which is an arts and agricultural focused nonprofit. Everything you see around here we built from scratch on a shoestring budget with mostly salvage materials.
We wanted to get out of the city, and we wanted to keep what we love about New York, which is the flow of people, the diversity of culture. Yes, this is a place of mindfulness when you're surrounded by plants and animals and nature.
We brought you over to the garden where I have some garden beds set up using Hugelkultur. So Hugelkultur is just a German word that translates directly to hill culture, and it's about how to build your soil up. Rarely it is that people don't want to make a change. It's that they don't know how. So after they come out, after they see how easy it is, how simple that they could do it in their own backyard, how they can grow their own food, how they get their hands dirty, they get a little bit of an excitement, and that's the catalyst that they need.
We went down to the groves to a very large tree. We have about 100 acres of native pecans. If that tree is about 300 years old, and it could be, then the Indians could have been eating the pecans off that tree. Well, you can start learning about farming at any time in your life. I did not purchase my first farm until I was 39 years old, and I never planted a pecan tree till I was 41 years old.
The Exit and Build Land Summit has been awesome, and I would say to anybody out there who's considering doing this next year, do it. You won't be disappointed.
It's been great. I mean, everyone's so receptive. I'm just personally excited just to meet a lot of these people.
A lot of us are thinking the same thing, but it feels great being around these folks.
There's never been a more critical time to make sure you're getting the right information, good information.
Leave school, get out of school. It's like that's the ultimate answer, is to get away from that indoctrination that starts now today in kindergarten and preschool.
We each have gifts that we can bring to the table, but everyone has different gifts, but when we work together, we can accomplish so much more than any one of us can by ourselves.
You can shape your world
to resonate with how you see the world. And I think the more of us that are doing that, the better for everybody else.
It's like, how do we create purpose in the places that we're living, in these new villages, in these new communities that are going to start emerging all over the place?
Most of the old system is just based on, like, if we have the money, the guns, the whatever it is, if we're the government or if we're the warlord, depending on where you're at in the world and when, it's always just been like, no, we get to tell you what to do.
I think ultimately it does appeal to everybody. It's just having the courage to be able to step away from what is considered the norm.
My advice is for folks is to follow your passion. Whatever just lights you up inside is the way.
You're responsible for your own life, for your health, for the education of your children. And so the more you take that on, that's something that we can come together about. And that's what we need to do, is not look at our differences, not fear each other, but how can we work together to make this a better life for everyone?
The government and big corporations want people dependent on them. But as we get back to the land, as we move out to the country, as we connect and trade and work and support one another, it makes it far more difficult to suppress these movements. It's going to eventually be a cat that you can't put back in the bag.
If you would like to watch the replays from the talks last year, you can sign up at exitandbuildlandsummit.com, and we'll be making announcements on speakers for the conference coming up in May. But that ate into a lot of the time for my talks, so I just wanted to show you all kind of a taste of what it's like, because for folks who have never visited an organic farm, who have never seen a pecan orchard or had an opportunity to visit a healing center, like, it's really special. And just seeing it like in real life, it touches a different part of your imagination. We're like, okay, yes, we can do this. I can do this. Like, let's do this. So anyway, I invite you to join us at the Exit and Build Land Summit. And how much time do I have left? Okay, awesome. Well, one last thing. Can I put up my contact slide with my email and stuff? So if you'd like to get in touch with me, my name's Rebecca Bush. I have a Telegram channel, Live Free with Rebecca Bush, where I post periodically. You can also sign up for our email list, livefree.academy/email. And I wanted to get into also the project we're working on called Exit and Build Property Solutions. We want to 10x our goals on homesteading, go from a 10-acre property to a 100-plus acre property. We are seeking accredited investors. We are seeking residents who want to purchase a lot. We've identified a property that is conducive to all of our goals. It already has a microgrid, multiple ponds, wells, livestock paddocks. It's awesome. It even has a landing strip for a plane. It has a plane hangar and an airport, basically, kind of. So anyway, if that property doesn't work out, then we're open to, just the 100-plus acres. But the whole idea is we need to do this before 2030. And our 5-year goal is to create that replicable model so that in the next 5 years, we've acquired this property, we've built it out, we've built community, and then we can put this model all over the world, and folks can visit, folks can get a taste for this lifestyle. So it's not just a 5-day event, it's 365 days out of the year, and it's just how we all live. So it's a better way. Thank you for listening to my speech. I appreciate y'all.
Yes, make some noise for Rebecca Bush. Hey, and as far as I know, I think John told me yesterday I'm speaking at the next Exit and Build. So I'll be speaking at Exit and Build. If you guys want to come join us in Texas, for those of you who want to cross the border, maybe swim across the river, whatever you got to do. All right, we're going to roll into our next presenters, the final presenters before we go to lunch. As I mentioned earlier, we're 15 minutes behind, so if you really got to get to lunch, go ahead and order your food or whatever you got to do, but we're going to be here till 12:45, then we'll break for lunch. And I want to make a special announcement. Who saw the Sun on Demand yesterday, Dr. Cat and Son's presentation? Who missed it? Who missed it? Who didn't get to see? 1:50 before lunch starts. In here, we're turning the light back on. If you want to see it, come here. 1:50 before lunch restarts. We're going to turn the Sun on Demand back on. All right, well, let's go ahead and jump into our final presenters before lunch. These are some more good friends who are going to speak to us about the importance of re-indigenizing our communities. And this is something that's very important to me, and I hope all of you will give them your full attention. Please welcome Vanessa and Danny Penzella Velas to the stage. Make some noise for them. Yes.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. How awesome was this conference? Let me hear it. You know, the Exit and Build Land Summit and the Greater Reset, I get very emotional at these events. I've been friends with John and Derek for over a decade, and, you know, 10, 15 years ago, we were sitting around smoking weed and talking about this stuff, and now it is manifested into reality. And I'm so proud of you guys. I love you guys so much. So, just a brief introduction. My name is Danny Panzella Velez. This is my beautiful and amazing wife, Vanessa Velez Panzella. We both took each other's names because we are merging lineages going forward. So that was why I've had some people make some comments about that. So just to clarify that. We are psychedelic integration coaches. We help teach people how to use psychedelics to heal their inner children. And you know, I have to say, I think the way the speakers were ordered today was amazing. Howard's talk, and then Lainey's talk, and then Becca, and then now coming to us, I feel like there's a flow. So I really appreciate that. And I am so grateful to Lainey for her talk. I don't know if she's in the room, but oh my, that was amazing. Thank you so much for all of that. Yeah, give her another round of applause. So just as part of our introduction, I was the angry activist back in the day. I did a lot of activism in New York City about police accountability and 9/11 and ending the Fed. And you know, when I first woke up, I was really angry. Like I'd been duped my whole life. And all these people now, I realize, were trying to control my life. And it was very difficult to deal with that anger. And I did a lot of things to try to medicate that anger, things that were not healthy for me, addictions like alcohol. And psychedelics really helped me to find my true center. And I want to say that in my eyes, psychedelics they're medicines that come from the earth, but they're also kind of like Dumbo's magic feather. If you remember, Dumbo did not need the feather to fly, but the feather gave him the confidence to fly for the first time. And then after that, he realized, oh, I don't need this. The power was within me all of the time. And so I know that some people have some resistance to psychedelics, but if you can think of it as a permission slip or Dumbo's magic feather that just kind of gets you into that place where you can do this internal self-inquiry to find who you really are, it's been a really beautiful journey, and I'm getting ahead of myself. So I'm going to allow my wife to introduce herself.
Hi, thank you all. Well, he just introduced us. But I did want to, before we really get started, I would like everybody to just close their eyes for a few moments, take a couple of deep breaths, take a deep breath in, and then sigh it out. Make some noise, shake it out. Let's move it. We've been here for 5 days. Some of us got to make it for 5 days, and some of us didn't. And I want us to be in this state of gratitude as we take a couple of deep breaths. Gratitude for these amazing organizers who put together this beautiful event that really taught us a lot, teaches us a lot about community. When we talk about manifestation, it makes sense, right? In order to truly manifest something, you need to be able to feel it. So I want to extend our deep gratitude to Derek, Hakeem, Miriam, John, Rebecca, everybody who is here. And I also want to extend a deep, deep gratitude to all of our ancestors, because all of our ancestors have played a pivotal role in us being here. And as they say, we are the prayers of our ancestors. So if we can tune into that, tune into our lineages as far back as we can feel them, and we can feel them when we make that deep intention to really tune into that, into who we are. And once we're able to tune into that, we can call on that energy, we can call on their prayers, on their guidance, on their support as we make decisions, as we take action. And of course, a huge thank you to our beloved Mother Earth, who holds us in the belly of her womb, who gives us with everything that we could possibly need to be sovereign beings on this beautiful planet.
Aho. So what is re-indigenization? When we first started on this medicine path, we first started to do our healing work, Vanessa really felt attracted to learning about her Aztec and Toltec lineage. She is from this land, Mexico. And I kind of was jealous. I'm watching her, and she has all these beautiful spiritual practices that she's pulling out of Aztec and Toltec culture. And I was like, what's my culture? McDonald's and MTV? Like, that's what I grew up with. So what is my culture? And so for me, the path of re-indigenization included digging into my Celtic lineages and Italian and Greek lineages, which has been really exciting to dig into some of the indigenous practices, especially of the Celts. That's where I've done most of my work. I'm just starting with my Italian and Greek sides. But I started to learn that the ancient Celtic Druids and pagans had some of the exact same beliefs and systems and even rituals that were so similar to what Vanessa was finding in her lineage. And then I went on this retreat and met this amazing friend who is indigenous to Maui, and he was sharing his indigenous Maui philosophies and spirituality. And I said, oh my God, it's the same there too. And Vanessa said, of course. Because it's all about living in harmony with nature. So re-indigenization is about taking the work that Lainey described of reparenting our inner child so that we can unravel the programming that we grew up with. So I can unravel McDonald's and MTV out of my persona, because that's not really me. That's not a part of who I am. It's something that I saw, I witnessed, people told me was a part of my culture. But really digging into my ancestry and where I really came from helped me to understand who I was, going back, right? And so when I finally had that, like, that strong foundation to stand on, that insecurity that I felt about, oh, I'm just a white person from America, I'm just a colonizer, I'm just all of these labels that get put on, right? Now I could stand in the confidence of, oh, I have a strong lineage myself, and I can tap into that and really become a sovereign person and have that confidence of the foundation built by my ancestors.
Yeah, so I want to share a little story. Like Danny said, we work with plant medicines, with psychedelics, and earlier last year, we did a Bobin Sana dieta, which is a 30-day plant medicine dieta where we abstain from as much stimulation as possible. Now, traditionally, these dietas are done in the jungle. You're in isolation, and the shaman just comes over to you every day to bring you your meals, and you are drinking this brew, which is not psychedelic, but the idea or the purpose is as you remove all of that stimulation, you start to build and develop a relationship with this plant. And so the story of Bobin Sana is a tree from the Amazon, and what we drink is the brew from the bark of the tree. And the Bobin Sana tree has roots that are 7 times deeper than its tallest branch. So if you were to take one of the branches of the Bobin Sana tree and pull it all the way down to the ground, once you let it go, it springs right back up. And so the lesson of plant medicine, Bobin Sana, is to be grounded in who you are, to be so grounded that you can play in all of these spaces that are not necessarily your way, right? The other day, Sterling was talking about panarchy and being able to live around other people with different beliefs, even if they're not your beliefs, and not be threatened by that. And so the idea of re-indigenization, when we tap into our roots, when we start recognizing who we are, where we come from, then we're able to come into other communities. I heard in one of the workshops, somebody was asking, if you're coming to Mexico, get in touch with the indigenous communities before you start building, because you want to know how to work with the land, you want to work respectfully. And when you know who you are, it's so much easier to work respectfully because you're not here to extract from anybody. You're here to say, how can I be of service? Because I am of service to my ancestors, and you're of service to your ancestors, and I can respect your ways even if they're not my ways, because I am grounded in my sovereignty. I am grounded in knowing who I am, where I come from, what my beliefs are. And I can play in your beliefs as well, and I can explore and try them on for size. otherwise, and I don't have to be afraid that if I step out of my belief system, I'm going to lose myself. And that's really the intention of that re-indigenization, is to ground into who you truly are, to ground into your true, authentic sovereignty. Because it's one thing to say, I'm a sovereign being and nobody can take that away from me, and as soon as a threat comes in, we're like, oh my God, we have to do something, they're going to take my sovereignty away. When you're truly sovereign, there's no way that anybody can take that away from you. You can even play in an unsovereign world and still be anchored into that true sovereignty.
Yeah. Yeah, we are in the matrix, but we are not of the matrix, right? We still have to live here in the matrix. We still have to associate with statists or even people who have radical statist views like communism or these other, tyrannical belief systems. One of the reasons why I was an angry activist was because of that insecurity. I needed to argue to convince you that I was right. I needed you to see my point of view, that 9/11 was an inside job and that they're spraying chemtrails and all of these things. I no longer need to convince anybody. I can share my beliefs. I can share the information that I have, but now I can do it in a place where I'm forming a connection first. The empathy, the bridge that we build with empathy between us is what allows for people to be open to our message. And then they can receive, and maybe they take it and they go and they integrate it into their lives, and maybe they don't, but that's their path. I know what path I'm on.
Okay, so what are some aspects of indigenous cultures? And this is the thing, it doesn't mean that you necessarily have to look into your culture and say, what were my ancestors doing, and I have to do every single thing that my ancestors did.
You do not have to move to the jungle and just wear a loincloth to re-indigenize.
Exactly. It's a matter of tuning into these, ultimately, like Danny said, a lot of these indigenous cultures are about being in harmony with nature, about aligning and really paying attention to our intuition, of honoring that intuition and then merging the two. We live in a very advanced society now. We've learned new technologies, and we don't have to reject the new and go back to the old. I honestly believe that re-indigenization helps us create, as some people say, the ancient new world. And so we're creating this world where we're bringing that old medicine, those old traditions. One of my Aztec teachers talks about how when Mexico was colonized, a lot of the indigenous people decided to hide their precious treasure, and the colonizers thought they literally had like gold and things, and so they were looking for stuff to find and extract, when in reality it was the precious teachings. And now a lot of these teachers are out there and they're sharing it, and they're saying it's go time, it's time for us to share this information with humanity, for all of us to bring those teachings into our lives. And that, again, that doesn't mean you have to reject everything that you know now, but now we incorporate these things. So for example, like Danny said, I've been tapping into my indigenous culture. I work with the Aztec calendar. I look at how my ancestors viewed time, and I start to align myself and pay attention to those energies. Oh, this is winter time. It is a time for us to go a little bit more inward instead of go, go, go all the time, right? Learning to work within those cycles of nature, learning to tap into my cycles as a woman, for example, knowing how to work with those cycles as well. So it's all about finding ways to incorporate those ways. We live in New York City, so we're not exactly living indigenous culture 24/7. We're living in Brooklyn, and we're having our traditions. We have our morning cacao together. We go out, spend time in nature. We're doing these things that keep us grounded, so that when we encounter people that talk about whatever statist belief is on the agenda today, it's not triggering. It's not scary to us, because we're grounded in our traditions. We're grounded in our knowing. We're grounded in our being.
Yeah. For me, the strength of us being in our sovereignty and then coming together and building community together, it makes the community that much stronger when we're all doing that internal work. And I think it's important. One of the things that it took me a long time to really get drilled through my head was that I am nature. Think about that. We are nature. We're not above it. We're a part of it. And I think a lot of times in our society, there is this kind of idea that we are above nature, and nature is here to serve us. And I think nature does very generously serve us, even when we don't appreciate it. And so that's another aspect of re-indigenization, is coming to that appreciation that we are nature and we can co-create with nature. And a lot of the speakers so far, like Yoshi talking about regenerative culture, is very much in line. Essentially, regenerative culture is re-indigenization. It's bringing the old wisdom and love and respect for nature and natural law, the laws of nature, and then bringing that into our everyday life. And people keep saying to us, why are you still in New York City? We still have work to do in New York City. Someone has to hold this frequency. Someone has to hold this message, even in the city, especially in the city. I would love to move to Mexico, to the country, and we have plans. We've decided now, next winter, we're going to start spending at least a month here. And it's a little bit more difficult for me because I have a 13-year-old from my previous marriage, and I don't want to leave him behind, so I'm waiting till he feels confident enough where he could fly by himself and come back and forth with us. But in the meantime, we are holding the frequency of re-indigenization within New York City. And it is hard. It's like a master class. And that's the way we really look at it. Being among all that tyranny and all of that statism, it really tests us on a daily basis of how sovereign we are. And I know that when I get triggered, if I go into a restaurant and they want to, it's not so much a problem anymore, but if they wanted me to wear a mask or were asking for a vaccine card, it would really trigger me. And that was my work. To be confident and know, what, I don't need to take a vaccine to come into a restaurant. I'm just going to, and I found that when I just kind of did my own thing and didn't really worry about if anybody was going to call me out and just kind of walked in like I own the place in that powerful sovereignty, not in an arrogant way, but just in the way of like, I know who I am and what I'm willing to do, and I'm not willing to do that. And so if you don't want my business, that's cool, I'll go somewhere else. So I'm no longer getting triggered by those types of things. And that's when you know you're in that sovereignty. So when you do get triggered, try to look at it as, where am I not sovereign? Where do I feel insecure that this person trying to impose something on me makes me feel like, uh-oh, they're going to try and control me?
Yes. Another aspect of indigenous culture that I wanted to talk about is storytelling, coming together in community. And I feel like what the Greater Reset is, what Exit and Build is people coming together in community. In Oaxaca, they have what they call La Guelaguetza, where people come together and they share their crops, they share their stories, they share their culture. And this is really what these events remind me of people from all over the world, from different places, coming together, sharing what we've accomplished over the past year, sharing what we're working on, what we want to build, what we want to create, and then supporting each other through that work. And we all have different ideas and different plans, different belief systems, and that all works too. But I think that's the beauty of us having these workshops where we sit together in circle as Indigenous people would sit together around the fire and tell our stories, share our experiences, that creates that connection. A while back, I read this book called Braiding Sweetgrass, and they talked about one of the indigenous communities, how they start their community gatherings with a prayer that aligns everybody with nature. So we honor Mother Earth, we honor the animal kingdom, we honor the plant kingdom, we honor the trees, the medicinal herbs, and we're all saying this collective prayer together, and it reminds us that we are all part of the one great experience that we're having right now. And when we are in that state of coming together, honoring all of these things together, it's a lot harder to find the conflict, right? It seems easier to find common ground because we are of this earth. We are working together to build our lives in whatever way feels best for us, but we are working together. We are, like Danny said, we are nature. We are children of Mother Earth, so we have our place, and we can work to find that place without oppressing anybody else, without having to make somebody else right. And one of the beautiful things about these circles, about these community gatherings, and I was sad to see that this year there weren't as many children, but this is the way we teach the future generations. We bring the children to the ceremonies. We allow them to come here. We allow them to run around and make noise, and it's okay. We learn that it's okay for them to be here because we're showing them the way, right? We can't say, okay, leave the children home so we can sit here and listen. The children have to see that. The children have to see us doing the work, coming together as a community. They have to see us going through conflict, and there's going to be conflict. It's okay. There's no need to fear that conflict. It's the part of us we're gonna expand. And I think, thank you. I think the more we embrace that conflict, the more we embrace those disagreements, and we allow those future generations to see, hey, we can deal with these disagreements peacefully, the more well-equipped they'll be to continue carrying this message forward.
Yeah, we can be the Bobinsana tree. When we're in conflict, when somebody's trying to pull or bend us or push us, we can be grounded in our own sovereignty. And, I can have that discussion with you. It could turn into a debate, but it doesn't have to turn into where we can't work together anymore or we have to separate. Look, I've been friends with John and Derek for a long time. All three of us have very strong personalities, at times difficult personalities. We trigger the shit out of each other. But we're also brothers, and we grow from those conflicts that we have from each other. We grow and we evolve together as a community when we can make space for that difference of opinion and that the conflict that eventually is going to arise. And I think the storytelling aspect is a really beautiful thing that I've really come to appreciate so much doing men's circles. I learned so much that a lot of the things that I thought I was dealing with, that I was the only one, like I felt isolated, I had these insecurities and these fears, and then I started sharing in these circles, and other men were telling me the same thing. They were sharing. I'll never forget my first men's circle. I was not the most popular kid in high school. I was kind of nerdy. I was a comic book geek, and I kind of got pushed around. And in my first men's circle, there was this guy. I call him Captain America because that's what he looked like. He just looked like this built, beautiful, strong. He looked like the prom king archetype, right? The guy that bullied me. And when I was expressing my insecurities, he was expressing the same insecurity. I was like, how is that possible? You look like the prom king. How could you have been going through that same thing? And it really made me realize that a lot of us are suffering silently with stuff that we're all suffering from. So the storytelling, the getting together and sharing together is connecting and makes that community so much stronger when we can be vulnerable and allow each other to hold space for us, even in our worst, what feels like to us, our worst moments. I had heard last week the phrase that pain is the price that we pay to meet God. And I think what that really means is we have to be willing, we don't have to stay and sit in the pain where the old priests used to whip themselves, not in that way, like we're self-flagellation, but in being willing to lean into the pain to see what the source of it is, where it's coming from, what we feel we're lacking inside, and then heal that part of ourselves, and then we can show up more wholly. Like more whole and holy. Yes, okay, so we are out of time, but I do want to just quickly, we're going to play a short video here. Recently, through a whole bunch of synchronicities, we have begun to bring the medicine of ayahuasca to the United States. There's a grandmother shaman that we work with in Peru, and they have been sending us the ayahuasca vine. This is not a psychedelic, but the ayahuasca vine is just part of the brew that makes up the psychedelic brew that is ayahuasca. And the vine itself carries harmala alkaloids, and these harmala alkaloids are the same chemicals that are being synthesized in depression drugs. So Zoloft is a synthetic version of ayahuasca vine. Yeah, so all that antidepressant medicine is in that vine, and we have the tincture here available. We have our table outside. Please feel free to come up and ask us about it. Ayahuasca, the spirit of ayahuasca wants to come to the West. How many are familiar with the prophecy of the eagle and the condor? Ooh, we have a good amount of people. I like that. So for those of you who don't know, The condor represents the kind of indigenous wisdom of the Americas, and the eagle represents the more Western influences, the United States, capitalism, and these things coming in. And so there's this prophecy that the eagle and the condor will fly together, so that we'll have balance between the very masculine, philosophical, intellectual traditions of the West and the very heart-centered, earth-centered, compassionate, grounded aspects of indigenous culture, and where we can bring those two things together. And that is part of the reason why ayahuasca is becoming so popular in the West now. It's by design. The medicine wants to come and wants to spread and wants to help the West to come back into balance with Mother Earth. So that is why we are bringing this ayahuasca tincture. Thank you. So it can help with depression and anxiety, and also just it can help you do the internal work of tuning into your emotions and really do self-inquiry. But it's something that you can use every day. It does not make you high, so you can go about your daily life while you're doing this.
Deep in the Amazon rainforest grows a vine with such amazing healing powers that it has been used by indigenous cultures for thousands of years. This amazing plant that Western science has only begun to learn the benefits of is Banisteriopsis caapi, also known as ayahuasca vine. Indigenous shamans and healers are now sharing the secrets of this ancient medicine with the Western world. In a fast-paced world, seeking natural remedies for our well-being has become more important than ever. The Banisteriopsis caapi vine extract in Regenerate Your Nature ayahuasca microdosing tincture contains a remarkable group of compounds called harmala alkaloids. Harmala alkaloids, such as harmine and harmaline, are the key constituents found in Banisteriopsis caapi vine extract. These compounds have garnered the attention of Western scientists for their potential health benefits, especially in relation to mental well-being. Research is proving what indigenous healers have known for centuries. These compounds have shown antidepressant and anxiolytic effects, meaning that they may help alleviate symptoms of depression and anxiety, as well as increase brain power through neurogenesis and brain health through neuroprotective properties. Studies are showing that harmala alkaloids in ayahuasca vine can modulate serotonin receptors in the brain, enhancing serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine levels naturally, helping people experience life with more peace and joy. Our Regenerate Your Nature ayahuasca vine tincture is not psychedelic and will not make you high, but it will promote neurogenesis and neuroprotection in your brain. When microdosing ayahuasca vine, individuals report enhanced focus, increased creativity, and improved emotional well-being. And because this is not a psychedelic, you can work with our tincture while going about your normal day. Regenerate your nature with the transformative potential of ayahuasca microdosing and unlock a path to enhanced well-being. Visit regenerateyournature.com to learn more about this natural remedy and begin your journey to a healthier mind and body.
Thank you so much. I just want to give some more gratitude to all of you for being here this week, for desiring to take all of this, re-indigenization, freedom, all of these things back to your communities and building stronger communities. We're changing the world. Do you guys know this? It's us. We're changing this world. So thank you all for doing that work. We love you.
Make some noise for Danny and Vanessa. Thank you guys for being here with us. All right, everybody, get to your lunch. We'll see you at 2 p.m. For those who are in person, 1:50 in this room. We're going to turn the Sun on Demand back on if you didn't see it yesterday. See you guys soon. See you soon.